We understand Africa is not China, so the path will also be quite different. And but the Chinese and as well as Africans, we are still confident when China can do that during past 40 years, Africans can do that as well. Hi, China Academy. My name is Tang Xiaoyang, and I'm a professor in the Department of International Relations at Tsinghua University. When I visit Africa, I see a lot of things which actually reminded me of China like 40 years ago. And the deficient infrastructure and the lack of industrial facilities, and also the relatively laid-back lifestyle. This all look pretty similar to the underdeveloped China many decades before. But during also my decades-long study on Africa, I also see a lot of change and transformation. So that's the other part of my impression on Africa. So Africa is an aspiring continent, looking for approaches and solutions for their development. So there are a lot of energetic and brilliant Africans who are very adamantly seek the solutions for their continent's rise. It was rather used by the Western colonialists during their colonial expansion. So no wonder it was actually an Indian scholar who proposed this term. His idea behind proposing this term is actually compare China to the East Indian Company. But that's something totally anachronical, because the colonial powers that time, they actually took advantage of these non-Western countries which have little ideas of financing of modern market economy. So they said, okay, we will lend money to you, and trying to trap you with this kind of infrastructure loans, and later they can seize the asset and the operation right of this infrastructure. But you see, this is not the case in 21st century. In 21st century, every country has their sovereignty, and they are independently, autonomously consider their development. And China is especially respecting this sovereignty, and so that's reflected in China's famous peaceful coexistence principles. China rejects any kind of intervention into this country's domestic politics and also their rights on their facilities. So China just give the loans to the companies as actually a commercial activity, but also as a development cooperation. So because in Africa, as well as in many developing countries, there's a huge demand for their infrastructure investment, but these countries, they don't have enough capital. So therefore, they borrow from China to work on this. And this is a totally like equal cooperation relationship. There's not any evidence on China actually tried to intervene and take this in facilities their ownership. And also then in this loan cooperation, it's usually the borrowers, they proposed that they want to borrow what kind of money and to build what kind of projects. Most knowledgeable and African scholars and also professionals, they just wipe this kind of argument away because they consider this words, this kind of reports as quite ignorant about the Africa's intention, about the real cooperation on the ground. They said Africa actually need capital, need investment. And this kind of ungrounded report, they actually really affect Africa's normal borrowing process and add a lot of additional costs and also disruption to Africa's development. And but however, this some of the Western media, admittedly, they have quite enormous influence on the public. So therefore, this term, they may also be used by the public, by the politicians, especially by some opposition parties in Africa, as a weapon to blame Chinese, blame the ruling party. And so this is how the African infrastructure development is interrupted by this kind of ungrounded blame. Yeah, so the China-Africa cooperation, they really substantially take off since 2000 with the establishment of Forum of China-Africa Cooperation. We see the collaboration has accelerated substantially. And from infrastructure to manufacturing to agriculture, and also the trade and this financing activities, the China-Africa actually has a very comprehensive growth in almost all the aspects. So in that general trend, we see some like big projects like Addis Ababa, Djibouti Railway, Nairobi, Mombasa Railway. We also see the big dams like Bui Dam, Tekeze dams, and a lot of ports and industry zones in Nigeria, Zambia, Egypt, etc. But I would say all these projects, they are still just a part of the ongoing process. We cannot at this point simply claim some are really successful, because these projects and achievements should be put in the bigger context of ongoing development. I would say this China-Africa cooperation is only successful when we really see Africa achieve sustainable and large, broad development, as well as China are able to sustain their global engagement, and especially their engagement in Africa. So that actually requires still quite a long time to see, because we see it's only over 20 years for this continental scale development. That's still a short time. I think the Chinese are in general more confident or optimistic about Africa's development. And the main reason is because China exactly looked like Africa 40 years before. So therefore, then the Chinese, they always say, okay, there are numerous challenges, but China used to be this as well. So if we work hard enough, Africa can be also like become China today. And so therefore, this is the source of confidence. But in spite of the optimism, then when you really work on these challenges and operate, then you really need the down-to-earth pragmatism. And I think this is also the most of the Chinese, they grow up through this down-to-earth work. So therefore, they are also know this how to work really on this small details and really work on the ground instead of just giving some idealistic principles or theories. So this is what I think the Chinese, they are unique in comparison to many other countries. The Westerners, because they actually, their development history was already over century. So therefore the current Westerners, they only have some theories and they do not know how to really make that happen from the ground. So in China, this vision of growth, they actually come from this comprehensive teamwork. So that's why we see now China, Africa, they work in on many fronts all at the same time. So this will gradually move the transformation forward. So we cannot 100% say, okay, what it will be in 20 years or in 30 years. So we understand Africa is not China. So the path will also be quite different. And but the Chinese and as well as Africans, we are still confident when China can do that during past 40 years, Africans can do that as well.
朋友都知道我是很挑剔的，防晒乳我选 KS 皇家呵护抗光清爽高防晒凝露，因为它有媲美蓝光神盾的抓藻植萃，保护我在阳光下延缓肌肤老化，维持青春弹力，可以防御工作环境里的 3C 商品，各种光源对肌肤的伤害，擦起来清爽不黏腻。我特别喜欢它做到海洋友善。365天，天天抗光抗老化，是我的保养日常。你呢？呵护您，呵护全家人，专属你的 KS Royal Care 抗光清爽高防晒凝露。